So when we done the first standard, we started in 2010 was the first get together, and it took us from 2010, the first meeting, till 2013 to get the standard out. This is just a group of some of the people that were invested in the standard. So since we had quite a good range from across the country, all states, anyone to do with anything of underground utilities, anyone that carries out that trade, mapping, survey, data collection, all of the above. So I said, you can see that there's quite a lot involved. With the second standard, we started the industry briefing in 2015. So the standard was only out for 2 years when someone in their wisdom decided they wanted to rewrite it. And when we met, we ended up getting together to say, well, let's not touch the standard itself. If engineers want something to move forward to an interpretation of how to use the standard, let's write a part B. So let's leave the standard as it is intact, and then let's just put a second part to the standard. So when you look at the standard, we've got 2019 part 1, which is how us as locators use the information. And then the part 2 is how engineers or developers or designers interpret that information. We found that was the easiest way to go. Again, the second committee, similar people involved. There was only 2 of us that were on the original committee that backed up to the second time. One of the reasons I wanted to sit on was to make sure that the intention of what we first decided, or first group input was gathered, that we didn't have too many changes and it lost its intention for where we wanted to go, what we wanted to do. With their information, and it's the same wherever it comes from, is the information that you get given. Now, however you get it, whether it be from the municipalities, from government departments, from private companies, we've got information that we need to get, but the problem we have is identifying the utilities, confidence in the information. So when you get a piece of paper that's got a line drawn on it, how did that line get there? Was it someone that just put it, someone drew it? Was it an AutoCAD converted? Was it just a PDF? Was it a hand-drawn map? Did it come from a gyro device? How did we get it? How can we trust it? What can we do with it? Assumptions on accuracy. Once we have that standard, we can start reducing the issues that we have. Interpretation and symbology. It's more about, again, what we're going to do with the information rather than I'm going to design it or call it something. So when we do our utilities, they have a letter in front of them for communications or for electricity or whatever, so that gives them some symbology. So every time you see a plan, it has what sort of utility it is. It can be all overlaid, but also the quality that the information was obtained. So once we get to the qualities of the soil, it'll make sense. Again, the usage in planning, we're trying to minimise misuse of information. Because again, people see a line on a plan, how did it get there? Can I trust it? Am I safe to take that as gospel? Is it an assumption? Currency and life cycle, how long is that asset going to be there? When I collected the information in 2013, is that same cable still there? Was it updated? But again, that comes back from our the information that's supplied by the utility owners. Hard copy and data, how correct is it? Well, so you've all got exactly the same questions as what we've just written down. I said, so this is where we start all of this information. So I said, so our aim is to try and improve that information, improve protection of the utilities, confidence of the information that we're going to supply on to the next person, and again, reduction of any damage or injury to life or utility. When we've done the second write, we have to answer, the rewrite, we have to answer every single question that every single one person wrote in. So if someone said, I want GPR to be a quality level A, we've got to give a response of whether we deem it to be correct or not, but we had to respond to every single question. So if someone said there's a typo, we had to say thank you very much, it was a typo. and it got that pedantic, but you have to respond. I said, someone's taken the time to give you a comment, so we have to give that comment back. And as you can see, 25% out of the scope. So when we start, we have a scope of what we decide we're going to do, and that come before we met as a standard committee. So the group decided we want to change the standard, we want to improve the quality levels. So that's all we're allowed to do. We can't go adding anything else. And that's why part 2 is informative, and it's not actually part of the standard, because it was out of the scope of what they were trying to achieve. Typos or spelling 10%, 20% didn't make sense, and I'll show you some examples. 35% because a third of this room had exactly the same question, which makes sense because, you know, we've all got the same problems. We're trying to improve. For a quality level D, need to mention that it's 2D. Again, you don't understand the standard yet, but this is what it is. It's a given that it's 2D, but someone writes that to us to say, hey, this is what it is, or why is it? Due to the fact, if technology improves and we have a GPR that can survey the information, can it be included? Well, at this moment, it's out of the scope. So as new technology comes along, then the standard will probably be updated to reflect that. But what we've got to do at the moment is, this is what we can do. This is what we can do every single time. And this is what we can do every single time in the same way. So again, that was one of the points of the standard again too, was to make sure that anyone can do it at any time, every time. And we're trying to take out that miscommunication of people handing over information that may be incorrect. Too restrictive, the word trace. Again, we come to that, and electronic detection. We want to make sure that every time you use that quality, that you can get the result that you want. So we had to put what we want it to be. More things. This is about survey, for those of you that are surveyors. If there is there anyone in the room that is a surveyor? Like I said, in 2020, the way or the relationship of whatever we're using as data system, I think it's about to shift 1.8 metres. So everything that's collected in the 2020 model is going to be 1.8 metres different to what was collected today because of the shift in the plates or the earth plates. But as long as it's said, when we pick it up, we're using 2020, not whatever it was before, it doesn't matter. And again, it was outside the scope. Someone mentioned about different qualities. Let's adding A pluses, plus plus, B minus, C plus. And then instead of having 4 qualities, you'd have 13 qualities. Then you start having, again, information overload. But that was just some of the history of, let's say, where we were going, what we were doing, the questions we've got to answer while we have to answer them. So with us, we have 4 qualities. Quite simple, D, C, B, A. D is from records. Any record from anywhere. We're lucky that we have dial before you dig, and approximately 95% of utility owners comply with the system, which is pretty good. Probably 4% are local municipalities or councils that aren't involved for whatever the reason. So we have a good take up. So when we make an application, we get gas, Brisbane City, Energex, a communications company, urban utilities, which is stormwater, and another communications company. So we get a real good picture of what's going to be in the ground. And we haven't got to chase up the 18 or the 10 utility owners. We make one call and all the information comes to us for free. We have a D, we have an accuracy of 0. But we don't know where it is, we don't know what it is. We have a plan that says there's something in the ground, we need to find it. This indication, it said it's unconfirmed, it might be still live, it might not be, right? But we've got to prove that, and so that's locators or whatever. So here, again, a little bit fuzzy on this screen. This is the map we get, tells us that there's 3 conduits running down here, so we've got to find 3 conduits. With them, they give us 2 sets of plans. So one's for the major fibre network, and one's for the old copper network that's still in the ground. But some of that now has been given over to the NBN company. Some of it's still Telstra's. But again, we get a good idea of what's in the ground before we go out. And all of the utilities give us something similar. This here says no spatial reference. clearly states it. So we know that we can't trust it. It just gives us an indication that there is something we need to find. We have an issue here that as soon as we have a CAD drawing, quite often they have scale. The minute you have scale, leads you to the potential for error. You also have CAD plans, which we were discussing earlier. If it's got a CAD plan and you move your cursor over to the top of the line, it can give you a coordinate if there's a system based off it. But it still may only be a hand-drawn line. We don't know how that information came there. We don't know how that line got on there. So unless told otherwise, we relate to everything we get by paper or electronic now is quality level D. It can't be trusted or valued. But it gives us a start point. This here was a job we done in Brisbane. What they say, where they say it's not quite true, but it gives us a starting point. That's how we should get mud maps. Everyone laughs and says it's nice and colourful. I can't scale it. I know that there's an electricity line there. I can't scale the water. I can't measure it in any way, shape or form. But someone's taken the time to give me a little map that says, here's what you need to find. This is what we have records for. There might be something else, but this is what we're looking for. GPR, quality level D, because of the limitations of ground level. But before we get into arguments, there could be people that like GPRs, there are people that use them, some people love them, some people rely on them for their livelihood. But take the information as probable, could be. In good conditions, they work fantastic. In bad conditions, they work rubbish. So I live in Queensland on the Gold Coast. Everyone thinks it's nice and sunny and beautiful sand. GPRs work about 30% of the time due to either water table or the fill that was used to build the area or rock. So you have too many limitations on when it will work, when it won't. And the same with the depth issue, which we come up to later. So if I can't rely on the depth, how can I give you the information and ask for it for anything more than what it is? Quality level C was a survey. We go out with either type, and what we do is we survey any visible surface feature. So any pit lid, any manhole, any fire hydrant, any fire valve, any street light, whatever we can see. And it's surveyed. That gives us a quality level C. With that, we have, we can align it, between two. So if we've got two manholes, we can align that quality level to a C. So we know that there's surface features, but we don't know what the utility is doing below. Anyone can walk out, see a pit. We can survey it, and I can give you back a nice pretty drawing with a survey scale to scale of everything that's on the ground that we know of that we can see. But the thing is, it doesn't relate to anything below ground. So C, aligned by visible features, and it's getting a little bit tighter. Right? We had a D out here, we now have a C. We're getting a little bit better. So with this, we're starting to build confidence with our information. Right? At first, there was something somewhere that we don't know where. Secondly, hang on, I can see something, I can give you a plan that's accurate of the above ground features, but I'm still not sure what's below. I can join the dots, and that's basically what it is, joining the dots. Quality level C, surface feature correlation and interpretation. Can be used as anecdotal evidence, but it's basically a site survey. So we have any sort of manhole with a pipe, we can draw it. Any sort of valve or fire hydrant system, we can draw it. But we have advantage of having plans from the water owner that says, hang on, this should join up and this should be a branch. So we can draw it like that. Because of the scale, we've surveyed it, so then we can pull it back to where it actually is, not how the plan showed it over here. Even if we draw it like that, it looks silly, but it's still right, because we're saying there's three surface features there. They're joined somehow, but we're not 100% certain how. We need to do more investigation. So you can even draw it either way, it's still correct. Right? So you can't be wrong with that because we're not sure of where the utility is underground. We're only talking about above ground features at the moment. With our ground penetrating radar, to be fair, if we have a pipe that follows a curve in a road or a cable that follows a curve in the road, do we draw it between two fixed points in a straight line or do we curve it? Which one's correct? Who knows? If we use a GPR to help us and we can get an indication of where it runs, we can then tell whoever we're handing the information off, hey, we used the GPR, we believe that this pipe, cable, whatever, curves. So they do still have some benefit, but very limited use. So this one's an acoustic detector. This one puts a water hammer into a water pipe. Then we can follow it. We use a listening device down here. We've got a blue flag all the way around the corner. This is to show on a curve. This is with the GPR, the same thing, and the same spot. Blue flags around the curve. So I'm still only given a quality level C, but I can give the person that requires the information better information because I've done something to help or to improve that straight line or line of sight. This is just coming back, standing on the bottom fire hydrant, looking back to where we just were. So it's still a quality level C, but we've given you something. One of the reasons with GPR is the depth value. So although you may get a nice, good, clean hit in certain areas, we have a depth here of that grass that you just seen. When we dig down that far, it's dust. We're in a drought over there and we have been for quite a while. When I come back to this with the GPR, it says 1.47 metres. I use a different brand GPR. It says 600 millimetres. Which one's correct? So I said I can't meet where I need to get. When we potholed the pipe, it was actually a metre deep. So the two GPRs were evenly out. But it depends on what brand you use as to whether you're out by too deep or too shallow. So you've got to be cautious of the information that you're supplying to someone. This is why it's only a C. No level of confidence that we're giving the person the information. When we change the calibration of the GPR down to wet soil, we then get closer to the depth. So GPR needs calibration to give depth. The only way you can really calibrate a machine is to push over a known utility. So that then you can change your settings in the machine to get an accurate depth. If we already know where it is and know how deep it is, we don't need a GPR. Then we come to quality level B, which unfortunately is just electromagnetic frequency device of any type. And this is possibly where that gyro machine may come into it, that we can give it a quality level B because it's going to track everything to within our standard. When we come on here, we have plus or minus 300, plus or minus 500. The reason for the elongated signal rather than a round signal was to save arguments. One person said the depth's out and the depth is always wrong, so it was easier to not have arguments to try and get consensus. So when we come back to any of these methods, so anytime that we can trace by generating an electromagnetic frequency along the utility, we then call it a quality level B. So that's located. Provides an actual relative position of the utility. So again, so we're bringing that level back in, we're bringing it tighter, we're giving the confidence to the person using it. Now again, remember that's only anything that's metallic, so anything we can insert a metallic trace or that we can physically trace. Applied by a clamp or direct connection. So I said, so we're putting that signal into that cable, then we're tracing that cable, and we get a nice good depth. We have current measurement. We can justify what we've done. One of the issues again we have is when we do potholing, we use a lot of vacuum excavation. Conduits don't always sit straight, whether it be bad workmanship, backfilled, bad at the end of the night, rained, moved off, whatever. Right? So there's 100 reasons of why. Once upon a time, in Standard 1, this was not a quality level A, because we can't get our tolerances said. So, as you know, if against the surveyors, we're picking up here, we're not picking up on this angle. The same with this. If we do a hole in the road and backfill it, we're not actually getting the shot on top of the conduit, which is the same as what you do with your as constructed, but it must be surveyed on top of the pipe. If we can't reach that, it can't be a next quality. So we brought in these couple of things just for bad work practice, I suppose you want to call it. So quality level A, sighted. And this is what we're talking about. When is it sighted? When do we change it? Do we get a point every collar? Do we get it to change the direction, horizontal and vertical? Ours says any change of direction, being up, down, left, right. But when you're looking at this curve over the top here, where does that change of direction start? Or when does it finish? So I said, so we've got a curve. And this is what I was talking about. Where is that curve? Where is it generated from? Where does it start? Where does it stop? I said, these are the things that we all need to do. Now, because that's an as constructed issue, it doesn't affect us when we're trying to get information on existing utilities. Right, so all the information we're getting is from existing utilities. So when we pothole using vacuum excavation, shovel, whatever, it is point data only. It is only at that one point that we survey that's quality level A. With that quality level A, it has to be absolute spatial positioning of 50 millimetres. So every time we get that machine out, it has to be that close. And so this is why the pole on the angle didn't meet a quality level A. Unless you have one of the new heads with the gyro top on top of it, which then equates to the level. But not everyone has them. We're still a few years away before everyone has those. So we've got to also work with the standard of what we've got today, not what's going to come up in 5 years' time or 10 years' time. But it has to be achievable today by everyone. So this comes back to the survey now, directly over the top, taking the shot. So with this, we're trying to, again, using this standard, we've got 4 qualities. We bring it from a D into the C by survey, into a B by tracing, and then we're validating it by potholing. And so that was back in 2013, line in the sand. Exactly what you're saying now. We need to move on. We need to go further. And that's how we're going to do it. We have certified locators now. You would have seen right at the start, Rob mentioned, I was on a DCL board, which is DBYD certified locator. So we have certified locators that work to quality level B. To obtain that certification, they have to prove that they can get it to that level. So therefore, they're the ones that are using this standard. We have government departments and utility owners now sending out contracts saying, we want the information to quality level B with X amount of potholes to validate it. But occasionally we'll go out and do a quality level C survey. That's only so they know what side of the road things are on. It doesn't really help that much, but it's still available. All right, so we come back, our D, unconfirmed. C, aligned by visible. B, we're getting it somewhere pretty close. And A, we've validated it.